Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and by RockAuto.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb. Welcome, everyone, to MotorWeek podcast number 137. And we're at Studio C in MotorWeek Central. And around our table today is writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Hello, John.
Our video editor, Joe Ligo.
Glad to be here.
Assistant producer Greg Carlos.
Hey, hey.
And our writer Patrick Lucas.
Also glad to be here.
And we're glad to have all of you listening and viewing us, for that matter. We have our lightning round of viewer questions, maybe even some rant and raves. First, though, let's go down the list of, I'll say 3 road tests that we have on the show at the current time. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start off with the Lamborghini Huracán Spyder, which we took to Roebling Road Raceway down in Savannah in February, when we go down every year to do, January actually, to do our winter testing. Okay, guys, an extremely interesting car. This, of course, the topless version of it. Who wants to start? Don't everybody jump in first.
Robson usually starts.
Yeah, he does. He was kind of a little bit mute there. This is radio, no dead air. Right?
I usually wait to hear and then he starts.
Well,
it's the convertible version of the Huracán, like you said.
Okay, tell us something we don't know.
Entry-level Lambo, based on the same chassis as the R8, V10.
Any big difference you think in how it drives, and for that matter, we'll get into how it looks versus the coupe?
I didn't notice anything. I've had both on track, a couple different tracks, and I didn't know it. You can't tell it. It's technically, I think, 150 pounds heavier, or maybe even more than that, but you don't really feel any difference.
The thing keeps coming up about, it's the entry-level Lamborghini, but, at this price level, how much is it cost?
$267.
It's like, isn't that a ridiculous thing to say anymore? Complain about it being like an entry-level Lamborghini?
Well, I don't know if anyone's complaining about it. I mean, it's just how it ranks. It's cheaper than an Aventador. So.
Is the engine the same as the R8?
Yes, V10.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
sounds great.
Well, that's kind of interesting, because it wasn't that many years ago that we were basically saying that when someone tried a 10-cylinder, it didn't sound very good. I think they've conquered that. How about someone else that drove it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those cars that's just very easy to drive on the track, which is probably a good thing, because as I'd mentioned, I think in my first look, it's how much that car costs. You don't want to really be in a lot of situations where you have to be fearful of the car going off the track or anything. But four-wheel drive, just gobs of power, and it's very entertaining.
Is it, in your opinion, or if you have the opinion on this, the easiest to drive Lamborghini on a track we've ever had? I mean, that's my impression, but I didn't drive it at the speed, say you did, Brian.
For sure. That was the big thing when the Huracán came out. That was absolutely the case.
I mean, a lot of people are actually thinking that it's the most gentrified Lamborghini yet.
And I think it's also very good on the street too. I had a lot of time with it on the street.
Has a great
top
ride.
Down, great ride. Top down, which that's when you really appreciate that. Sun, blare in on your face and letting everybody look at you driving around in a Lamborghini. But it's comfortable on the road.
What about the transit? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying the most significant thing. It's like it's a real convertible top. I mean, even though it's called a Spyder. Sometimes you'll get those kind of take-off tops or whatever, but it's a true...
it really folds and everything.
The hatch opens up in the back, tucks in.
Which is really nice to have. You're not out there basically worried about it raining and trying to put together a Rube Goldberg kind of panel.
Yeah, I really would think that looking at all the pictures when I edited it together, the top looks well integrated. It's not one of those kind of like, we just hacked it off and put cloth over it. It looks visually well put together for being a convertible.
I didn't like the color of it, though.
I
the
like
top
that.
or the whole car?
No, the color of the top didn't really match. It was that sort of burgundy.
I think it looked good with
Really?
that color.
Yeah, I like the contrast.
So it was like a gunmetal, dark gray exterior with like that sort of burgundy top. I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting point of view, Patrick.
Well, what about
I don't think anybody else agrees with it.
Let's go to the next step and talk about a lot of these cars don't transfer from a coupe to a convertible very well. We said some pretty decent things about it in our test.
I think all things considered, the color. I mean, color aside, I think it's a very good looking convertible.
I actually didn't drive the coupe we had last year on the track with the helmet on. Did you notice any major? Because honestly, I could not get comfortable in that car, and it's well documented. I'm taller than an average person. Really? I actually could not get into an actual driving position where I felt comfortable.
The soft top did rob a little headroom, not much, but a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I have to agree with Greg. I basically, what limited time I spent in on the track, I was like this. And my head canted.
Did you have your hand over the steering wheel like this?
Pretty close. Pretty close. No, not
Even
quite.
better.
I did have both hands on the steering wheel. Okay, Lamborghini Huracán Spyder. Now we're going to move on to something sort of different. Our performance car challenge that we did with Cars.com. And we actually divided this up into two different areas, basically the V8s and the non-V8s. And I'm going to let Brian Robinson set the stage for the first part, and then we'll come back to him for the second. But what were the three cars involved?
Yeah,
for
it was
the
more
V8?
of a muscle car challenge, not performance car challenge. So that's when you talk a muscle car, Camaro, Mustang, and Challenger. It's the only three out there.
Specific models?
V8s, as you mentioned. So Camaro SS, 392 Hemi Scat Pack Challenger, and Mustang GT.
Just the straight GT.
Yes.
Okay. So since you were the man on site for that, what was your capsulize the impression of the three of them?
Yeah, I mean, with the Camaro being the newest one, you could kind of see that coming as far as being the best overall. But even the Challenger and Mustang were only 1-year-old designs. But really, the Camaro was above and beyond when it comes to performance compared to the other two.
It wasn't necessarily the most fun.
You could make the argument that the Mustang, more so when we get into the smaller engine cars, but the Mustang certainly has a lighter, more nimble feel to it than the Camaro. But Camaro on the track was above and beyond what the Mustang was doing.
The actual track performance aside, let me ask Patrick and Greg, if you were going to go plop your money down for one of those three body styles, and you've driven them, what's your choice?
Mustang.
Why?
I love the look
Why?
of the new one.
You like the look
new
of it?
generation of it, yeah. I think it's very kind of sleek looking, but still Mustang enough. Looks very modern day. Whereas the Challenger is retro in a cool way, and then the Camaro is just sort of, I'm kind of sick of that body style.
The same car you've seen since 2006.
Exactly, so I would go Mustang.
Greg?
I think I'd have to find a compromise here. I think the Camaro is the best car as far as driving. I don't think I like the way it looks. It is actually better on the inside. I love the way the Challenger looks. Probably the worst driving car out of the three.
That's a lot to
Very
handle.
comfortable on the inside, though. It's a big car. I think if you want to compromise, though, you'd have to go, and I would probably agree with Patrick here, the Mustang. It has a little bit of both. It's not as good as a driving car as a Camaro, not as good looking, in my opinion, as a Challenger, but it's that one right in the middle.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's kind of funny how the Challenger is the ultimate muscle car, but yet everything about it that makes it the ultimate muscle car pretty much made it not do as well in this challenge, because the Camaro and Mustang have moved on. They're more, going after
A
sport
global
coupes.
market.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But having said that, the Challenger did way better than I thought it would do.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised at, I kind of baited you with that question. I was looking for somebody to bring up something that I think we don't always talk about with performance cars, and that's just livability and visibility. In the past, we've pretty much always downgraded Camaro because of the short side glass, and the new car's a little better,
Not
but you're
much.
still sitting
Tiny
awfully
side
low.
mirrors and
Very
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still
which
got
I think is a real
criticized
problem.
for that.
Yeah.
You mentioned price. That was something interesting. Since I edited the test, I looked at the numbers. I'm amazed that all the prices were within like $2-3 of each other. Especially when I saw that they had the 392 with the Scat Pack and all that stuff. I thought surely all those options were going to make it, $5-6 more than the others. But
They sit in a little dark room and they hash over prices. Pricing of cars is one of the biggest secrets in the business. They want to
and
keep it competitive.
You have to keep it competitive for sure.
Yeah, just it seemed to me it was odd that the Dodge and the Chevy had like a leader on the Mustang in terms of displacement, but yet their prices were all so consistent. And I like that because in the test, it's frustrating when you see a test where you're like, well, obviously that car won. It cost $10,000 more. You'll see some tests that are a little lopsided like that.
Well, I'd say that was kind of the way these comparison tests are set up. There's usually a price ceiling, although there wasn't on this one. But
correct,
still.
but they had to be V8 manuals.
Yeah.
But
And that puts it in puts a cap.
In case you didn't grasp, the Camaro won, Challenger second, Mustang third.
Let's move on to the non-V8s. There, it's a little. There was a price cap, but the rules of what you could bring to the event were a little more wide open.
Yeah, since you can get a Turbo 4 or 6 in the Mustang and Camaro, we kind of left it up to them, whichever one they wanted to provide. Challenger obviously only comes with a V6, so it was Challenger V6, Camaro V6, and EcoBoost Mustang.
Nice choice there, because we just had that one, and I thought I had a ton of fun in that.
And it was the overall winner. Again, the Camaro was still a little bit better on track, certainly in straight line. And that Camaro V6 is pretty impressive, especially with the performance exhaust. I mean, it sounds like a V8.
I noticed that. Like when I was editing the drag strip shots, the Camaro sounded way better, like just through the speakers and stuff. It's like, wow, this is definitely the cooler sounding car of the three.
And Challenger didn't quite fare as well without the big V8 engine to go around, so it came in third this time. But I think just the overall package of muscle cars becoming more performance cars and overall livability and just modernization, that's kind of why the Mustang was a little bit over the Camaro.
We used to disparagingly call these cars, and this goes back quite a ways, secretaries' cars. That really, well, not only was it in poor taste even when we used to call them that, but these cars basically have a lot to offer in the performance area, despite the fact they've got smaller engines. Correct or not? I mean, if you're just buying it for a street car that you want a little bit of cred with.
They're more legitimate than they used to be, when we're talking V6s. You could certainly cross shop on with like a 370Z. Stuff that you couldn't have done maybe 10 years ago, but still, I would certainly buy a V8. I would probably buy some entirely different type of vehicle if I didn't want a V8, but that's just me.
Well, not a V8, but I just thought that the EcoBoost Mustang that we had did a good job making you feel like you're in a Mustang, even though the performance or the feel necessarily, or the engine sound, stuff like that wasn't necessarily there. You still feel like you're in a cool muscle car.
I don't know what the sales are. What do you think most people feel that way, or like if you're going to get a Mustang Camaro, like you might as well get the V8, or why get it? Because I had mentioned one of that, and I think like a soundbite, and I had a lot of people comment about like, oh, well, why would you ever take a V6 when you could get a V8?
No, a lot of it's insurance.
Insurance and cost. The entry level engines far outsell the V8s.
Yeah, always have. Actually,
it's not even close.
Yeah, but a lot of people they want the look and they want the interior and they want basically the heritage, but they also want maybe a little bit of fuel economy. But insurance is a big deal, especially if you're kind of young. Okay, let's move on now to the other area that we've spent a lot of time covering lately, and that's the Chicago Auto Show, where we deliver our Driver's Choice Awards every year. And if you'd like a complete rundown of the cars that we did give to our Driver's Choice Awards this year, go to our MotorWeek.org website. Let's talk about briefly the car we gave our top Driver's Choice Award to, which was the Volvo XC90, and kind of came out of nowhere. Cars kind of getting out on the street now. Why did we give it such a big award? What's your impression?
Well, I think it's well documented by this point. It's an incredible step for them and a lot of luxury for the money.
Amazingly high-tech laden, every safety feature you could think of, plus the a Tesla challenging big tablet type touchscreen on the inside, but just a really nice car and pretty good value. Pretty good
I was going to say,
value.
it was really hard to pick anything wrong about that car. It just seemed like every aspect was very well done.
And I think it's moved beyond just the auto journalism circuit, and now consumers are really picking up on that too. I talked to a guy.
They're flying off the lots.
He'd only just there's like a Volvo dealership near the high-end suburb where he lives, and he said like, oh man, he's like, the day I saw that there, I was like, man, that's really cool.
So, but there was I agree with you, Joe. Sorry. There was a lot at the Chicago show, actually more than usual. It's a good show for consumers. It has more consumers that go, car buyers actually, than any other show. People that actually lay down their money. I guess if the most significant all-new vehicle that was introduced, which is not really totally all-new, is the Nissan Armada, a big SUV based on the Nissan Patrol, which is sold around the world, and the slightly down-market version of the Infiniti QX80. You know the QX80 pretty well. They basically no longer is the Armada based on the pickup truck frame. It's now from the U.S. It's now basically the global platform. I wonder why they did it, and was it a good move?
Exciting, yeah. That was the big headline, and I couldn't help but feel sort of disappointed when I saw it.
It's a big SUV in a market that's selling big SUVs, but gee whiz. It's
I get the move, but I just don't. It was pretty boring.
I think they did the move just because that Titan, it got kind of a bad rap being based on that frame and the overall quality and ride and handling of it. So that was in the works to move it over to Patrol, before this new Titan frame arrived. So that's kind of the whole reason for that, from what I can gather.
So is it still truck based, or is it kind of that like gray area?
It certainly is a truck.
Okay.
Without question.
Similar to Toyota Land Cruiser along that.
Okay. So there's like not an exact pickup equivalent to
Correct.
it, but it's body
at least
on
not
frame,
here. One performance bright light from Chicago was the Camaro 1LE, kind of stripped down Camaro, which I'm kind of
now with V6 power.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It's like, okay. But, considering how many V6s that we're seeing in the performance arena globally, probably
consider
makes
how
some sense.
we just talked about how
If you're tracking, you want less weight, so hey, go for it.
Santa Fe and Santa Fe Sport did a minor facelift. There were some utility vehicles. I guess the vehicle that was the most interesting is the Kia Niro. We had seen it as a concept, and now it's in production. Their first dedicated hybrid platform, and I assume there'll be a Hyundai model coming eventually. It doesn't seem like the best time in the world to launch a hybrid, but hybrid SUVs are relatively few and far between.
It looked very it looked very small. Is that like a Sportage or something, or is it smaller than it looked?
I think it's smaller, right?
Yeah, it's like
Soul. Really?
It's more like a little bit bigger than a Soul, but not nearly as big as a Sportage.
Yeah. So.
You again think probably more hatchback. It happens to be cubic.
And that part of the move is right, because everybody's trying to fill any gap that there is now in the segment. And then now that they have a hybrid, that's just, another step in their progression as a company.
And they had...
Well said.
They also had
I actually wrote that down.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was waiting so long to finally say it.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to driving it to see how much they've refined the drivetrain. Of course, they've got the new Kia Optima hybrid and plug-in hybrid as well. And so they don't seem to be diminishing their outlook for hybrids, even though the cost of gas is where it is today. And I just came back from a green vehicle conference, and I think everybody's just kind of reeling from that's in the green vehicle business about what's going on with gas now, and lots of predictions that by the end of this year it'll be different, but we'll see. Anyway, that was pretty much sums up the news from Chicago. Let's move on now to our lightning round, and this is where we give ourselves 2 minutes to debate a trending automotive topic. When time's up, Patrick, hit the bell. So here we go. Are performance brands getting too watered down? Things like the C450 AMG or a BMW M235i, not to be confused with a pure M. Almost performance cars, are they more posers than anything else? Do they take away the prestige from the pure in-house tuner cars? Sure is getting confusing. I'll say that right off the bat. What do you think?
Look at him go.
Raising your hand.
Yeah,
starting the clock.
Too bad.
Starting the
You
clock.
have to talk. You got it. Raise your hand.
It's no, I don't think so. I loved that M235i. The C450, we had that at Roebling, right? The C450 AMG. That was pretty cool, too. So, no, I don't think it takes away the prestige because you still know that the ultimate high, like the M2 or the C63 or whatever, you still know that those are way better. So I don't think it waters it down at all.
I think from a prestigious car buyer, it does. I don't like
if you're
none
going to
of us have that
if you're going to
car.
buy the M,
Right.
you're sort of
exactly.
miffed that
So
there's something
you
that
have
they can
you
get.
have a C63, that's now a Mercedes AMG
Right.
C63. You don't want to see somebody pull up next to you in a
With the same
C450,
wheels.
right? And act like they're as
Okay.
good as you are. I'm not saying that's how I feel, but I can see a lot of luxury car buyers being miffed about that.
Well, now they just have more people to look down upon.
Well, yeah.
You couldn't really afford the
Yeah,
real
exactly.
thing.
But to most people who don't know a lot about cars, who study it as much as we do, they're just going to see it and say, "Oh, look, you guys have the same car," and that's just really going to make some people mad.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Greg. I think that there's just something like there is paying for that badge, and when you put down that much money, you don't want other people to feel like they're a Me Too kind of car. And the thing is, Patrick is right. They're great cars. Like the C450, it's like maybe they should just be named differently.
I can see them using some of the rub-off halo effect on a model that they don't plan to do the top dog in. For instance, like
That would make sense,
Cadillac's going to do a V series of the new CT6, the big sedan, but they're probably not going to do a pure V.
Right.
Okay.
So they're kind of giving
That
it,
makes
they'll
sense.
put some wheels on it. Well, I'm not sure it makes sense, but I can understand it. They're trying to put some of that flavor down there on a car that will never probably get the full treatment. That I agree with Joe. That I guess I can see, but I think it waters it down.
Well,
I tend to agree with you.
More specifically to Mercedes, though, the C450 AMG doesn't have the hand-built engine like an AMG, right? So that's another thing. Like now you're kind of confusing people who already knew that an AMG was one man, one engine, one person, one engine.
Well, how many people?
And now they see a C450 AMG and they maybe assume that it is, but it really isn't.
And how many people now even know that Mercedes AMG is like an entirely separate brand?
Well, that's another whole story. We could spend 2 minutes
exactly. So
on
I'll
this
tap this
fractionalization
one
of brands. Okay, thanks everybody. Let's move on now to talk. And this is kind of a general viewer question. We get it a lot rather than it come from one person. Okay, with cars like the LaFerrari, the McLaren P1, the new Acura NSX, Porsche 918s, we're seeing a trend in supercars with not just using electric motors for propulsion, but using electric motors in all sorts of ways in conjunction with traditional high-performance gasoline engines. Is this the wave of the future for supercars, which it appears to be? Is this a blip? And are we going to see, if we wake up 10 years from now, is this going to be extremely common in every car you drive? The electrification of powertrains, is it here to stay? Or if gas stays cheap, is it going to go away? What do you think?
I think it works well as like an all-wheel drive
I'm just going to say that.
augmentation. Like what
We
the
have the
RAV4?
RAV4.
All the Toyota stuff.
A lot of Toyota.
all-wheel
The
drive with
Highlanders had it for
intelligence.
quite a while.
With intelligence.
So like the rear wheels aren't actually connected to the gas motor at all, right? It's just
Correct.
a
There is
little
no
electric kind of
physical
booster
link.
in the back.
But the Europeans are using and for that matter, so is Acura, are using electric motors to augment the power like a hybrid of the gas engine. In the case of the NSX, and I'm assuming they're not alone, they got a twin-turbo V6 with a lot of turbo lag, and the electric motor hooked up behind it actually fills in that gap. So you don't notice it. But I guess the question is, this is very complicated stuff. Any engineer will tell you when you got two engines, it's more complicated than one. But it sort of looks like this is a trend.
I think so.
Ryan, you haven't said anything.
I'm sure I said something along the lines there, but I don't know. I think we'll see more of it. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's a trend or not, but I mean, why not?
Is it just a
Technology's
cafe
getting
thing because the fuel economy standards are there?
No, I think it's just just where we're going. I think we'll see a lot more of that before we'll see more full electrics. It's the technology's there, the software's there. It's relatively easy, I think. To
Probably saves weight.
Yeah,
Volvo's
why
moving in
not?
that direction, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we talked about that before.
The XC90 T8, that's going to have
And they're moving like all their platforms to incorporate electric components.
Just remember, unless there's a major change coming out of Washington, you still got that mythical 54 mile per gallon target that they got to hit. And electrification looks like one major way they're going to do that.
I read something that predicts a split in the market so that you have compliance cars and hybrids and stuff that boost the corporate average, and then the cars they actually sell and make money are, crossovers and stuff.
But the problem is you've got to sell. It doesn't work that way. You've got to sell a lot of the high MPG vehicles to get the credits.
Yeah.
You can't just make them. You've got to sell them.
Yeah.
But here we are, the Europeans. A lot of people felt that way until the Europeans started sticking electric motors on Ferraris and McLarens and Porsches, and that caused when the 918 was first shown, that caused everybody to sit up and say, "Wow, if they think they're going to do it, maybe this is more than just a blip."
That's why I think it's definitely here to stay for those performance cars. It still remains to be seen if it's going to make it into everybody's car in the next couple of years. But performance-wise, it has nothing but benefits, I think. You get instant torque right away, and then you still have that V10 or V12, whatever you have back there in those supercars. And then if you have like the i8, which I got to spend a lot of time in, and I loved having that that immediate torque all the time. It's great.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for those comments. I think we're basically kind of generally in agreement that the electrification of the car in one way or the other is here to stay. Rant and rave time. Anything that's gnawing at your spine that you really want to get off your chest or spine or whatever?
Look at him go.
I guess a quick one, or I don't know.
Just a quick rant and rave.
Turn signals, everybody could
Please
chime
use
in on
them.
this one. Yeah, well, I think even beyond that, I think using them properly is something that should be stressed.
What is a proper use of a turn
Well,
signal?
the
What's
idea,
an improper use that you're specifically referring to?
the
more importantly?
idea of a turn signal, and I guess maybe this could just be me. I don't know if I had ever read it anywhere, but is to alert somebody before you make any kind of action.
Instead of when you're halfway
So,
through the turn.
right, exactly. If you're changing a lane, you'll see a blinker come on like maybe halfway through or when you're
Right.
already in the lane. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
or if you're turning, you're going to turn onto a different street. The people start braking. I don't know what this person's going to
Right,
do.
yeah, and then they put
it's
it
like
on right-
I saw an accident this morning, and I guarantee that's exactly what it was. It was right at a light, and I guarantee the person was making the turn and didn't indicate until they were literally already stopped and about to make the turn, and the person behind them rear-ended them.
Right. I think it's something where once you start braking, you should put it on. Like if it's something.
I think
Yeah,
it's
do it
before you
before,
start
yeah.
braking.
Come on, Joe.
What did
Well,
we learn? What did
simultaneous.
we learn in school, in driving school? What did we do, 200 to 300 feet, something like that? they
Yeah,
say?
but
how
I think
do
in
you
terms
measure
of
it, but
braking,
still.
it's got to go. The sequence has to be blinker, brake, turn, right?
All right.
So we have a very long straightaway going up to the driveway of MPT. How long of a distance before you get to the driveway do you?
I have
does
to
everyone
say
put their
I'm
blinker
probably
on?
about 500 feet, but I'm probably a
There you
little
go.
more.
That's
I
on the
do.
long end.
I always
yeah.
wait because there's a cul-de-sac before our driveway. I wait until as soon as I hit that cul-de-sac, I
that's
put my
too
blinker.
late. You-
But I don't
you've
want
only
people
got
to
about-
think
You're
I'm
only
going to
like
turn
100
into
feet,
the
50 feet.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, but that
Exactly.
can be
That's
very
right.
confusing because I've seen people
Yeah.
get jammed up there.
Me too.
For that very reason, people
Because
everyone they don't wait to see the vehicle actually turn.
Right.
See a turn signal go on. Oh, that means I can come out. And no, you can't.
To me, the secret there is you don't pull over into the turning lane. There is
Right,
a turning
yeah.
lane. You basically put your turn signal on, but you don't get into the turning lane until you get to that little cul-de-sac. Because otherwise, somebody coming out of that cul-de-sac will turn in front of you. Which is
Well, I always use hand signals as well, Greg. Should I do those? Should I do those before
I
or
should have
after?
known you don't trust any
Yeah,
kind
you
of
have cranked
electronic
down
signal.
windows.
Do I do
too,
that
don't you?
before or after the electronic signal?
Oh yeah, okay, you're right. So it's hands. Well, no,
Hand
it's
signal.
it's electronic, then hand, then brake.
As long as you use your hand and not your fingers. All right, thanks everybody. That brings to a close. Use your turn signals, folks, in advance. Tell
properly.
the other driver what you're going to
Please.
do.
I feel like we were very calm there too. I
Yeah,
could have gotten out
well,
of hand.
I think it was getting a little, everybody's face was getting a little red. MotorWeek Podcast 137 comes to a close on that note. We want to thank you very much for listening, and those of you watching our podcast, thank you also for sitting through it. And we want to thank our podcast audio engineer and just general all-around good guy who sets everything up, Jim Bigwood.
Jim Bigwood, the human
human
sandbag.
Yep.
That's what he called himself.
That's not nice.
He said it himself.
Well,
We love you, Jim.
we love you, Jim. Our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, who's not here to defend himself at all, and our podcast producer, Patrick Lucas, the guy with the bell. Okay, join us next time. Be sure to catch MotorWeek on public television stations everywhere. Our YouTube channel is alive and well, and inviting you to come to take a look at anything you might have missed. Of course, our Velocity folks on Velocity has all of our latest shows. Gee, just about anywhere you want to be, MotorWeek is there. Thanks very much, and make sure you catch us and keep up with our website at motorweek.org. I'm John Davis, and we'll talk to you soon.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and by RockAuto.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.